Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the MLB slate on DraftKings and Yahoo for Friday, August the 23rd. We're going to look at Friday night's 13-game MLB slate. Start off with pitching. We'll work our way through the pitcher-player pool, and I'll be sure to touch on all the pitchers that I like for today. Then we'll look at three specific hitters I really like. We'll talk about some stacks that I'll be going to. And then towards the end of the video, we will look at some BVP plays for those of you that are interested in BVP. Before we do get started, guys, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like on the video, and if you are new to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button down below so that way you don't miss out on any of my new videos. But starting at the top of the pitcher-player pool, Jacob deGrom, our most expensive option today. He is $11,300 on DraftKings. Over on Yahoo, deGrom's actually not the most expensive pitcher. He's at $51. You have Lance Lynn at $53 as the most expensive pitcher. But just touching on deGrom here, it's a pretty tough spot for him, having to face the Braves. This is one of the tougher matchups a pitcher can have. This Braves team doesn't have many strikeouts in its lineup. It is a different lineup, though, than what we saw at the beginning of the year. No Nick Markakis, no Dansby Swanson. The top four is pretty tough to get through. Acuna, Albies, Freeman, Donaldson, all really good hitters. But Joyce, Flowers, Echeverria, Ortega, not really that scary of hitters, 5 through 8, 5 through 9, I guess you could consider, since you have the pitcher in there as well. So it's an easier spot for deGrom than it would be. Still don't know if I want to pay that hefty price tag for him today, though, at $11,300, especially when we have Jose Barrios in a great spot against the Tigers, and he is $1,300 less. Like, if Barrios was probably the same price as deGrom, I honestly think I'd play deGrom over Barrios. But since Barrios is so much cheaper, he's going to be the guy that I go to the most today. He's going to be my number one pitcher on both sites. $10K on DraftKings, $47 on Yahoo. Just love the spot for Jose Barrios. Getting to face the Tigers at home. Barrios, just throughout his career, has always been much better at home. Plus, you factor in the matchup. Just such a good matchup against the Tigers team that has a ton of strikeouts in its lineup. It's a really bad offense. Barrios has faced the Tigers once this year, did really good. 6 2/3 innings, allowed 4 hits, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts, 25 DraftKings points. I feel like 25 DK points is kind of like just just like an average game for Barrios here. Could easily see him go 30, 40 DK points. Like that start against the Marlins where he went 7 innings, 11 Ks. I feel like we could get one of those starts out of Barrios here. So he's going to be a guy that I go to a lot today. Definitely my favorite pitcher on the slate. You do have like Lance Lynn, though, in a pretty good spot against the White Sox. But with Barrios on this slate against the Tigers, Barrios is just going to be the guy that I go to the most today. There are some cheap bats that I like today, so it's probably possible to play like Barrios and Lynn together. Or if you want to play deGrom, you could probably do deGrom and Barrios and still make it work. Because one of my favorite stacks on this slate has a lot of cheap bats in their lineup and gives you a lot of value. So I'm sure I'll have a couple lineups where I do spend a lot at pitcher. Even though I'm not going to be spending for both 10K and above pitchers, I do like Jack Flaherty today as an SP2 at $9,400 on DraftKings. If you play Barrios and Flaherty together, that still leaves you over $3,800 remaining per player, which can easily be worked around today. I like going to Flaherty a lot on Yahoo as well at $42. This is a great spot for him pitching at home against the Rockies. This is a Rockies team that really struggles outside of Coors Field. We see it in the run total. Right now, their implied run total is very low, if I can find the Rockies. Right here, 3.5 implied runs. Heavy favorite Flaherty is at minus 209. A lot of strikeouts in this lineup as well versus right-handed pitching. This Rockies team just outside of Coors really struggles. And Flaherty's been a great pitcher this year. He can get a lot of strikeouts. He struggles more with lefties than righties. So obviously, like, Blackman's a concern, Murphy's a concern. But I'm not really worried about Tapia, McMahon, Walters, especially when these guys are outside of Coors Field. So I think Flaherty is a top SP2 option. Even if you want to play him as your SP1 today, I think that makes a lot of sense. He's been great lately with 30 DraftKings or more in 30 DraftKings points or more in 3 of his last 4 starts. I like going to him as an SP2 today and pairing him with Barrios. But then other pitchers we could maybe consider on this slate, like Zach Greinke at home against the Angels. Not the greatest matchup, but Greinke is pretty cheap at only $8,800. So he's for sure a guy you can look to as a cheaper SP2 at $8,800. Definitely gives you upside, even though it's not the best matchup for upside. A guy like Vince Velasquez, I think, makes a lot of sense at $7,800 against the Marlins. Even Trevor Richards against the Orioles for 7,400. Zach Plesac for 7,200 at home against the Royals. I think all three of those guys, Velasquez, Richards, and Plesac, are going to be guys I have in my player pool today and I get some exposure to. If you're looking 7K and below for really cheap pitchers, Fultonevich against the Mets I think is in play if you do want to go to him. If you're looking for really cheap value, there's not much to like down here at the bottom. Like Peter Lambert, I don't want to go to. Suarez against the Astros, no thanks. Ty Block against the Rays, no thanks. Don't want to play Noesi against the Phillies. Maybe a guy like Trent Thornton for 6,200 against the Mariners could be playable today. If I could find the $700, I would just try and get up to Fultonevich. But if you really want to go cheap at pitcher, I think Thornton would probably be my favorite option down here at the bottom at 6,200 because it is a pretty favorable matchup. The Mariners have been pretty bad this year versus right-handed pitching. Although they've been improving lately, still not a team I'm afraid to take pitchers against. So if you want to play Thornton for 6,200, I guess you could look to him. But this feels like a slate where I'm probably going to be paying up at pitcher, probably for both of my pitchers, because we'll talk about the Rays. I think the Rays are in a great spot today, and they have a lot of value in their lineup, a lot of cheap hitters. So let's just go ahead and move on to bats, talk about those Rays bats. Looking at their pricing on DraftKings and the spot here versus Ty Block, it is a great spot for the Rays. I'm going to be very intrigued to see what their implied run total is. I have a feeling it's going to be like over 6 because Block is just a terrible pitcher. Pitching in Camden Yards, not a great ballpark for him to pitch in either. One of the reasons he was able to have success in San Francisco was because he was able to pitch in that ballpark, that pitcher-friendly park. Now you're getting him out of San Francisco. Now he's pitching with the Orioles, having to pitch in Camden Yards. I expect Block's really going to struggle here. He's made 2 starts this year against the Red Sox and the Yankees, and he struggled in both starts. I think we're going to see him struggle again here. So I like going to these Rays bats for value. You got a lot of cheap hitters in this lineup. Aguilar at 3,900 is one of my favorite plays today on both sites. He's dirt cheap on DraftKings, dirt cheap on Yahoo as well. Over on Yahoo, he's at $10. So I think this is a great spot for Jesus Aguilar. This is a guy that has a lot of power versus left-handed pitching. Block will give up home runs to righties. He doesn't really get strikeouts either. That's something that Aguilar does struggle with, is striking out, but Block's not going to strike people out. It's a great ballpark for hitters. I think it's pretty good hitting weather as well. Yeah, 81 degrees with 50% humidity. Love this spot for the Rays, and I love Aguilar today at 3,900. Another value play I really like from the Rays is Matt Duffy at 3,100. Duffy, not a guy that I usually roster unless I'm like stacking, because as a one-off, he just doesn't give you a ton of upside, doesn't have much power, but if you're stacking the Rays, he's just a really good play to go with your stack because he's so cheap. He fills out that third base spot. He can make contact as well. He's not a guy that strikes out much. Although he doesn't have much power, he's going to put the bat on the ball. And against a pitcher like Ty Block, I don't really care if you don't have much power. I'll pretty much play anybody versus Block. He's just that bad. So I like Duffy a lot at 3,100 on DraftKings. On Yahoo, Duffy's at $10. I don't think you need to go to him because there is a cheap third baseman I like on Yahoo that we'll talk about. But you can play Mike Brousseau, who's another guy I really like from the Rays. I'm assuming he's going to be in the lineup since they're facing a left-handed pitcher. This is a guy that actually does have quite a bit of power versus lefties. 5 home runs on the year, limited sample size. He hasn't played much this year. But when he's played versus lefties, he's been pretty good. Great ballpark. Pretty much everything I said for Aguilar and for Duffy applies to Brousseau. I just love going to Rays bats. I think Brousseau as a cheap second baseman makes a lot of sense. You could definitely fit a Rays stack with 2 expensive pitchers on Yahoo. It's pretty easy to do. They're going to be a team I look to a lot as a value stack, and probably just one of my favorite stacks overall on the slate. But now to fill out my 5 plays for DraftKings and going over to Yahoo as well. Let's go over to Yahoo and fill out my third base spot. I told you guys I didn't want to play Duffy at 10 because I do like a cheaper third baseman, or a third baseman right in that same price range. Manny Machado for $11 here feels like a really good play. Even though it's not the greatest like pitcher matchup facing Erod, Eduardo Rodriguez is a pretty good pitcher, but not a pitcher I'm afraid to take bats against, especially good hitters like Manny Machado. Machado has matched left-handed pitching this year, and Erod has struggled to righties. He will give up some home runs to righties. I think this is a pretty good spot for Machado. I'm not going to be looking to stack the Padres just because I don't think they have that much appeal as a team, but Manny Machado as a one-off I like a ton. Hunter Renfroe, if he's in the lineup, I like him a lot as a like if you want to do a two-man Machado Renfroe stack, I think that makes a lot of sense. But where Machado is only $11 on Yahoo, he's one of my favorite plays at third base. I'll for sure have some lineups though where I play Duffy because I'll have some full six-man race stacks over on Yahoo today. But now going back to DraftKings to fill out my 5 plays for DK. Another team that I think is pretty appealing today are the Brewers. Right now the Brewers have a 5.6 implied run total against Merrill Kelly in Miller Park, which is one of the more favorable hitters' parks. Right now Fantasy Labs does have Trent Grisham leading off for 3,500. He hasn't been in the lineup the last few days. I'm assuming he's going to be in the lineup today. If that's the case, I think he is one of the top values in the outfield at 3,500. Pretty much said it like the last few days I've recommended this guy. He's just way too cheap, especially if he leads off for this price tag against Merrill Kelly. Kelly's not that good of a pitcher. He does struggle to lefties. Grisham is a lefty that has a little bit of power. I think he has a little bit of speed as well. And I do like the Brewers stack, so obviously Grisham is going to be a guy I look to when I'm stacking the Brewers. It feels like one of the better values on the slate. Whether you're stacking the team or if you just want to play him as a one-off, I really like Trent Grisham today at 3,500 on DraftKings. But these are my 5 plays today for DK and for Yahoo. Now, going over to stacks before we look at BVP, my favorite stack by a landslide today is going to be the Rays versus Ty Blach. This team just gives you so much upside. They have a lot of value in their lineup. They're just a really nice team to stack. I'm assuming since they're facing a lefty, guys like Sogard, Kiermaier probably won't be in the lineup. You'll see guys like Brosseau crack the lineup. Aguilar should be batting like 3rd or 4th. D'Arnaud is a top catcher play today. Austin Meadows, even though it's lefty-lefty, I think you can definitely consider him. Tommy Pham's one of my favorite spin-ups in the outfield if you can find a way to fit him in. Just going to be trying to get in as many Rays as I can here versus Blach. Will be pretty interesting to see what their run total is once it gets released. But looking at other teams we could potentially stack, I do like the Brewers here versus Merrill Kelly in Miller Park. I think the Brewers give you a lot of upside. If you do want to consider some Indians versus Junis, I think that makes some sense. The Indians are another team that give you a lot of value. Out of their top 7 hitters, you do have 3 guys at 3,800 that you can consider. So they're a team you can look to for value. I would want to stack the Astros, but it doesn't feel like a slate where I'm going to be going cheap at pitching. And in order to stack the Astros, you're probably going to have to play 2 cheap pitchers because all these hitters that you want are all over 5K. Pretty tough to fit them in with someone like Barrios, who I think is one of the best plays at the pitcher position today. So don't know if I'll be getting the mini Astros just because they're really expensive. But 6.1 implied run total against Jose Suarez, they're at least in consideration for me. But there's not many other stacks that really catch my eye today. Like no really crazy high totals on this slate besides like the Rays and the Brewers and the Astros. Indians have 5.5 total, so they're a team you could look to. But other than that, I think we pretty much covered all the stacks I'm going to be going to today. Let's go ahead and look at some BVP real quick, and then we'll end the video. So just looking through some BVP plays that really stand out. Freddie Freeman, 14 for 51, 3 home runs off Jacob deGrom. Lindor has great BVP off of Jake Junis, 15 for 29 with 3 home runs. Brian Anderson, 4 for 15, 2 home runs off Vince Velasquez. Wellington Castillo has great BVP off Lance Lynn, 9 for 15 with 3 home runs. Justin Upton, 11 for 31 with 3 home runs off Zach Greinke. And then lastly, down here at the bottom, Marlon Gonzalez, 12 for 7 off Matt Boyd. Also, Cole Calhoun done pretty good against Greinke, 7 for 14 with the home run. But that's it for BVP, guys, and I think that is it for this video. Hopefully you did enjoy the video. Hopefully it did help you. If you enjoyed, make sure you drop a like down below. I would really appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe if you have not already. And if you do have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments section below. Or like always, you can hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT if you do have any questions. But good luck tonight, guys. Appreciate you watching the video. We will see you in the next one. Peace.